Before our wedding practice, she told me not to stay awake for her that night, as she was meeting her former boyfriend for one last conversation to find closure. I didn't protest, but the following morning, as she proceeded down the aisle, I wasn't the one standing there for her. I'm the type of person who values clear boundaries. You're either fully committed or you're not. You're either by my side or you're elsewhere. For 3 years, I believed Emily was by my side. We created a solid life together. I manage a small engineering company. The work is intense, but it's steady. It enabled us to own a comfortable home and plan the elaborate wedding she always envisioned. I'm a strategist. I thrive on specifics. I excel at logistics, and I need to know exactly where I stand. Emily was always more spontaneous, flowing with the moment. I thought we complemented each other well. I was the foundation, and she was the breeze. Her ex, a man named Greg, was a lingering shadow in our narrative that she refused to let fade. They had been together for years before me, and she claimed their breakup was messy, but she was completely over him. Still, his name surfaced occasionally. A message on her birthday, an unintentional like on an old picture. I wasn't fond of it, but I trusted her. I believed our shared future outweighed her past. That trust vanished 24 hours ago. It was Friday evening, the night of our wedding rehearsal. We stood in the chapel where we were set to marry the next day. Our families were present. The wedding party was there. Everything proceeded smoothly. We went through the ceremony, practiced our vows, and attended the rehearsal dinner. It all felt routine. After dinner, as we bid farewell to our parents, Emily pulled me aside. She was already dressed for a night out, not for heading home. "Hey," she said, her voice overly nonchalant, "don't stay up for me tonight." I was puzzled. "What do you mean we need to be up early? The wedding's tomorrow." She avoided my gaze. She fidgeted with her purse strap. "I know, it's just that Greg's in town. He reached out. He wants to grab a drink just for closure. I need to officially end that chapter before starting our new one." I stared at her. The night before our wedding, she planned to meet her ex for closure. The sheer, staggering disrespect was astounding. The boldness. It wasn't a request. It was a statement. She was informing me of her plans, not seeking my approval. My best man, my brother, stood nearby and overheard. The shock on his face mirrored my own. But I didn't lose my temper. I didn't shout. In that moment, as she waited for me to cause a scene, a strange, complete calm settled over me. The emotional side of my mind went quiet, and the analytical, problem-solving side took charge. This wasn't a relationship hurdle to overcome. It was a critical system breakdown, and I was the engineer tasked with resolving it. I looked at her and offered a small, restrained smile. "All right," I said, my tone steady. "I understand. Do what you feel you need to do." She looked surprised, then relieved. She expected an argument. When she didn't get one, she assumed she'd gotten away with it. "Really? Thank you for being so understanding," she said, giving me a quick, dismissive peck on the cheek. "I won't be out late." She walked away, hopped into a rideshare, and was gone. My brother approached, his eyes wide. "Are you actually okay with this?" "No," I said, pulling out my phone. I'm not going to debate it. I'm going to resolve it." He looked baffled. "Resolve it? The wedding's in 12 hours. "Exactly," I said, scrolling through my contacts. "That's just enough time." She wanted closure. I was about to deliver it to her. The most definitive, public, and unforgettable closure she could ever imagine. Update 1. The moment Emily's car disappeared around the corner, I shifted into action mode. The next 12 hours would be a masterclass in strategic maneuvering. My brother, ever loyal, stared at me, awaiting orders like a soldier ready for battle. "First step," I said. "We need to track her location and contact the ex." Locating her was simple. She had the Find My Friends app enabled on her phone, a detail she'd clearly overlooked. A few taps and I had her position. A dimly lit cocktail lounge downtown called The Alibi. The irony wasn't lost on me. Finding Greg, the ex, was more challenging. I didn't have his contact, but I knew his surname and workplace. A quick online search pulled up his professional profile. He was a salesman, his profile picture showing a man with a self-assured, slightly smug grin. The type who likely saw himself as the protagonist in every scenario. This was a vulnerability I could leverage. I used a burner app to create a temporary phone number. I sent him a message. "Hey Greg, this is Sarah, one of Emily's bridesmaids. This might sound wild, but Em's having a complete breakdown. She's supposed to marry tomorrow, but she's in love with you. She's at the Alibi right now, too scared to tell you the truth. She's terrified of her fiancé. He's incredibly controlling. She wants you to rescue her, but she'll never admit it. You need to be her savior." It was a risky move, but I was banking on his ego. A guy like Greg wouldn't resist the chance to play the hero, swooping in to save the woman who slipped away from her dull, domineering fiancé. While waiting for his reply, I rallied my team. I called my 3 groomsmen and my father. I explained exactly what had happened and what I planned to do. There was a moment of stunned silence, followed by fierce, unified support. My dad, a man of few words and swift action, simply said, "Tell me what you need, son." The plan was straightforward in theory but intricate in execution. The wedding wasn't being canceled. It was being repurposed. I sent a mass text to every guest on my side of the family. Urgent update. The wedding plans have shifted. This is not a prank. Tomorrow's ceremony is no longer for me and Emily. It's now a surprise celebration of Emily's closure. Please trust me. Come to the church as planned. Do not, under any circumstances, contact Emily or her family. Just show up, sit on the groom's side, and enjoy the spectacle. More details to follow. Next, I handled the finances. I logged into my bank account and stopped payment on every check I'd written for the wedding vendors. I then called the 24-hour fraud alert line for my credit card, the one linked to the venue and caterer. I reported it stolen. This ensured any attempt to charge it the next day would fail. The contracts were in both our names, but the payment methods were mine. I was surgically extracting myself from the financial equation. My phone buzzed. It was Greg. "Who is this really? Is this a prank? Emily's right here," I texted back from the burner number. "Of course she's with you. She's putting on a brave front. Ask her if she's truly happy. Ask if she wishes things were different. She'll deny it, but look into her eyes. She's trapped. Tomorrow morning, she's expected at the Grand Cathedral at 11 a.m. If you're the man she believes you are, you'll be there too, at the altar, waiting for her." I knew Emily. After a few drinks, she'd be nostalgic and emotional. She'd say exactly what Greg wanted to hear. She'd stroke his ego and he'd buy into it completely. The final step was my own exit. While my groomsmen fielded confused calls from my relatives, reassuring them I was fine, I was at home, packing. I threw together a suitcase with my essentials. In my home office, I shredded every shared document we had. I packed up my personal computers and work files. I left one item on the kitchen counter. It was the wedding album from my parents' marriage. I opened it to a photo of them on their wedding day, gazing at each other with profound love and respect. Beneath it, I placed my engagement ring. I was out of the house by 3 a.m. I drove to my brother's place, parked my car in his garage, and he drove me to the airport. I'd used my airline miles to book a one-way ticket to Costa Rica, the destination of our now-canceled honeymoon. As I sat in the airport lounge watching the sunrise, my phone buzzed once more. It was Greg. "I'm in. I'll be there." I smiled, powered off my phone, and boarded the plane. The performance was about to begin, and for the first time in ages, I was merely a spectator. Update 2. I arrived in Costa Rica to the glorious relief of a phone that had been off for 8 hours. I was at a beachside bar, a cold beer in hand, when I finally turned it back on. The digital deluge was immediate and spectacular. A flood of missed calls, voicemails, and texts hit me. My brother had been sending updates via a messaging app. The scene at the church, he said, was cinematic. Emily's guests arrived, dressed elegantly and excited. My side of the church was also packed, but with a different vibe. My family and friends sat in quiet, eager anticipation. They knew something big was coming. Greg, true to his word, had shown up. He stood at the altar, looking anxious but resolute, wearing a slightly ill-fitting suit he'd likely bought that morning. The officiant, utterly perplexed, was attempting a hushed conversation with him. Then the music began. The church doors swung open, and there was Emily in her white gown glowing. She started her walk down the aisle, smiling broadly at her friends and family. She was so caught up in her grand entrance that she didn't glance at the altar until she was halfway down. According to my brother, the moment she saw Greg was a moment for the history books. Her face cycled through a dozen emotions in seconds. Bewilderment, shock, dread, and finally a sickening realization. The music wavered and stopped. Murmurs rippled through the church. Her father, standing beside her, looked from her to Greg, his face a mask of rage. Emily reportedly froze in the middle of the aisle. Greg, realizing this wasn't the heroic rescue he'd imagined, gave a feeble, helpless shrug. Then my father stood. He had a microphone arranged by my brother with the church's sound technician. His voice echoed through the silent cathedral. "Good morning, everyone," he said with calm authority. "It appears there's been a change of plans. My son, the groom, learned last night that his fiancée needed closure with her ex-boyfriend. He chose to be supportive. He understood closure matters, so he arranged for her to have it right here, right now. It seems this is the wedding she truly desired, so on behalf of my son, I'd like to congratulate the happy couple. He sat down. The church erupted in chaos. Emily's family was shouting. Greg was trying to slip out a side door, and Emily burst into tears right there in the aisle. The fallout was a financial and social disaster for her. The venue, caterer, and florist all tried to charge the credit card on file, which was, of course, declined. The contracts, co-signed by her father, became his burden. He was liable for a six-figure wedding that ended in a public collapse. My brother told me Emily's father called him, yelling and threatening legal action. My brother calmly responded, "Your daughter went out with her ex the night before her wedding." Liam didn't cancel anything. He simply chose not to participate. You should thank him. He spared your daughter a lifetime married to a man she clearly doesn't respect. The story spread through our town like wildfire. Emily, who cared deeply about her reputation, was now the woman abandoned at the altar by two men in one day. I spent the next 2 weeks in Costa Rica. I surfed, hiked in the rainforest, and savored excellent coffee. I ignored the hundreds of messages from Emily and her family. My lawyer handled everything. He sent them a formal letter stating our engagement was terminated due to her actions. He also billed her for her share of the wedding expenses I'd covered. When I returned home, the chaos had begun to settle. My house was quiet, her belongings a somber reminder of a life now ended. I hired a company to pack and store her things. I sent her the storage key without a note. Final update. It's been 6 months since the wedding that never happened. The peace in my life has been profound and refreshing. I focused on my work, rekindled friendships, and embraced the joy of a drama-free existence. The legal threats from Emily's family fizzled out. My lawyer easily dismissed their claims. They had no legal footing. In the end, they had to pay the wedding vendors to avoid lawsuits. The financial blow was, I'm told, devastating to her father's pride and wallet. Emily's life, from what I've heard through mutual contacts, is in disarray. She and Greg are not together. He was livid at being manipulated in her drama and wants nothing to do with her. She moved back in with her parents, and the atmosphere there is reportedly frigid. She attempted an online smear campaign against me, but my friends and family quickly countered it, eagerly sharing the true story. The most revealing moment came 2 months ago. I was at a hardware store and ran into one of her bridesmaids, Sarah, who'd texted me from the burner phone. She saw me and looked like she wanted to vanish. "Hey," I said, keeping my tone warm. She looked up, startled. "Oh, hi," she muttered. "Look, about what happened, I'm so sorry. We all told her meeting him was a terrible idea, but she wouldn't listen. She said you were so predictable you just get upset and move on." I nodded. She was half right, I didn't get upset. "Yeah," she said with a wistful smile, "she really underestimated you, and that was it. She thought I was predictable. She thought my love and commitment were things she could set aside, pick up when convenient, and expect to still be there. She thought my boundaries were mere suggestions, not absolutes. I didn't orchestrate some elaborate, humiliating revenge. I made a rational choice based on the evidence she provided. Her actions showed her past mattered more than our future, so I gave her what she wanted. I gave her a future with her past. I'm now seeing someone new. It's early, but it's different. It's grounded in honesty and clear boundaries. The other day, she asked about my last relationship. I told her the truth. I said I was supposed to get married, but on the wedding day, I chose to take my honeymoon solo instead. She laughed and said it was the most practical, wild thing she'd ever heard, and I suppose it was. Sometimes the most rational solution appears the most outrageous from the outside. But from my perspective, it's the best choice I ever made.